a Sal Pal Friday. A birdie tells me that he will be part of the ESPN radio national broadcast, and his buddy on that broadcast, Adam Amin, will be joining us later on in the show at 5 o'clock tonight right here on the Sports Bash. So Amin will call the game, and on the sideline, it is Sal Paolantonio. He's powered by Dunkin'. This season, the pregame starts at Dunkin'. DD Perks members score a $1 medium hot or iced coffee on Eagle game days. Head to Dunkin' for your kick before kickoff. And the Eagles are back at home, which means the parking lot attendants will be happy when they see Sal Paolantonio. How are you, friend?
Mike Gill, always great to be with you. And the ESPN broadcast is carried on 97.3, right?
No, we have Merrill and Mike, but
you have Merrill and Mike. Okay.
We do have the Merrill and Mike broadcast, but I did see your name listed as a contributor to this week's broadcast with the great Adam Amin, who was in great costume last night on that West Virginia broadcast, by the way. Did you see that?
He does such a great job.
He's very good. So I want to get your thoughts while we were talking about Desean Jackson. Looks like he's going to at least try. Or do you feel there's some gamesmanship going on here? Or do you think that he's going to give it a go if he can? And should he try to give it a go?
Yeah, my opinion, which doesn't really count for much, is I would keep him out of this game. And I would make sure that he gets 2 more weeks of healing and gets ready for the Patriots in 2 weeks. They have a bye coming up. I think the same thing for Miles Sanders. You know, he didn't come back in that game against the Bills when he got hurt, and I'd like to see him heal for 2 more weeks too. You know, the Bears, they play rugby. You know, they don't score a lot of points. You can probably beat them with a tight end, a fullback, and a place kicker. So that to me is and it's not really the most important thing in this game. The most important thing in this game is that Khalil Mack does not destroy Carson Wentz. Because you got Khalil Mack probably lining up against rookie left tackle Andre Dillard. They're going to have to give him – I know he had a pretty good game against Buffalo, and he's getting coached up by Jason Peters. But to me, this is a very, very important game for the Eagles' offensive line to keep Carson Wentz healthy and whole for another week.
Well, Sal, last week they ran the ball with a lot of success against a good Buffalo team, but the wind seemed to be the reason why. But did you see anything in that game that they could take and incorporate and say, you had success doing X, let's bring it into this game and do it again?
Yeah, they had a lot of success with Jordan Howard, and that was really encouraging. They stuck with it. Buffalo's run defense was top 10. This Bears defense is another top 10 defense. To me, this is a game where you can control the line of scrimmage, in my opinion, offensively and defensively, if you have the right plan in place.
Sal, you know what's incredible to me is that Nelson Aguilar caught 16 total passes in Week 2 and Week 3. That's against Atlanta and the Lions. And we know he had some drops in there that were well documented. But 16 passes in 2 weeks, and he has caught 11 in the last 6. That's staggering to see a player go from one end of the spectrum to the other. Do you see him coming back around, maybe even if Desean is out there opening up that offense a little bit? Or do you think he's kind of back into this rut where his confidence is shot?
I don't think his confidence is shot. I think there was a lack of trust in him. I mean, right after the Falcons game, I think he only had 1 target in 2 games. So, I think the trust dropped off a little bit, and they are starting to come back to him slowly. But, and we talked about this last week on this very program, Jeff, and that is Miles Sanders kind of replaced Desean Jackson as the inside speed guy in the passing game. And that means there's really no place for Aguilar. So if Sanders is hurt, I don't know how much they're going to use him, if at all, in this game. Talk about Sanders. This could be an important game for Aguilar. Because you remember, if you go back, playoff game last year that the Eagles won on the double doink game, Golden Tate was a really important factor in that game from the slot. The Bears have problems with slot receivers. They don't have enough in the secondary to handle it.
How surprised were you, or were you at all surprised that the trade deadline came and went without the Eagles making any move other than Jannard Avery?
I was surprised, but then I agree with Doug Peterson. He said, look around the NFL. It was overall pretty quiet. Teams were asking for a lot. The Jamal Adams trade didn't go down. I think Jamal Adams wanted to be traded to Dallas. If you listen to some of his comments to Ryan Clark, our colleague on ESPN, from Dallas, it kind of sounded like he wanted to go and was disappointed that he didn't get traded. That whole thing is a whole weird situation. But I think Aguilar's in his last year of his deal, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I don't know how much you could get for Aguilar. I know. To me, the guy they missed out on, Jeff, is Emmanuel Sanders. Yeah. Emmanuel Sanders was available, and the Niners got him. And, boy, he looked good last night, man.
Yep, and Sal Paolantonio Jones is here for a Sal Pal Friday. The Bears' defense we hear always about. If you don't watch them every single week and you just think of the Bears, you think of their defense. Is their defense on par with that team that won the division and went 13-3 last year?
It is to a certain degree. They're missing certain components on their defensive line, and that has made double teaming Khalil Mack a little bit easier. So they're not as good as they were last year, but they're still pretty good. And I think the Bears have the edge when their defense is on the field. And that's clear. I think the Eagles have the edge when their defense is on the field.
How much do you think, because Khalil Mack usually rushes over right tackle, do you suspect you'll see a big chunk of Khalil Mack moving over to rush over? I'm sorry, he usually rushes over right tackle. Do you think he'll move over left to test the rookie, or do you think that'll just be kind of a here and there type thing?
Well, Lane Johnson did a pretty good job against him in the playoff game, if you remember.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they will move him around. I think that they definitely will test Andre Dillard. That was the original point that I made about this game.
All right, Sal, when you look at the Eagles, they got that win last week. Did they convince you enough that this team seems to, after all the locker room drama and all that stuff, that they seem focused and ready to make a second-half run here, that we will see a more inspired team the rest of the way?
I do. This is a Bears line in this game, 5 points. I think you would agree with me, Mike. That a Bears team that's, just so handcuffed offensively would only be a 5-point underdog against the Eagles at Lincoln Financial Field after the Eagles basically manhandled the Buffalo Bills team. So I do like the Eagles in this game. I think it'll be close. As you said in your lead-in, the Bears are playing for their season, like the Eagles were playing for their season last week. This is a pull out all the stops kind of game. If you're looking for another cliche, all hands on deck. The problem is that, Mitchell Trubisky has proven to be so darn inaccurate with the football. They haven't had him running outside the pocket because he came off that shoulder injury. So I anticipate this being a close game. And then, they'll win. The Eagles will win the game. And then they'll get ready for the Patriots. They'll have 2 weeks to get ready for the Pats. But I kind of have a sneaking suspicion that the Ravens might steal a win from the Patriots on Sunday night.
All right, there we go. Sal likes the Eagles to beat the Bears. They get the week off, and then the Patriots. So things could be looking up for the Birds. And, of course, you can hear the game. And if you're on the national feed, you'll hear Sal Paolantonio as part of that broadcast. And, of course, he is powered by Dunkin' here on the Sports Bash each and every week. Eagles pregame starts at Dunkin'. DD Perks members score a $1 medium hot or iced coffee on Eagle game days. Head to Dunkin' for your kick before the kickoff. Eagles fans, run on Dunkin'. Another Sal Pal Friday in the books. That quick. Just that fast, man.
Thanks, guys.